As a nurse, I've seen a lot of people with sleep deprivation. It affects their job, their home life. At Room to Room, we want to take the guesswork out of buying a mattress, and that's why we brought in this technology. It shows you what you need. We want to do the assessment and find exactly what's perfect for you.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Laupon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Laupon has proven himself trustworthy.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Good evening and welcome into the Mississippi Live Weather at 10. I'm meteorologist Gabe Maynor, and what an active afternoon for a lot of us with those isolated showers and storms. Luckily, not putting a damper on the whole day, just bringing some of that necessary rainfall to hopefully alleviate the drought that we're under. Updated drought monitor actually coming out for your Thursday, so we're going to be having the latest details tomorrow morning with meteorologist Maggie McCauley. Looking here in the Room to Room Weather Center, what we're tracking is a little bit of those showers and thunderstorms still sticking around for our far southwest counties. That's what we're tracking at 11 o'clock, but overnight we do see those chances diminish and into our morning forecast. Honestly, not too shabby of a forecast whatsoever. We're going to see plenty of sunshine warming up our atmosphere, and emphasis on the warming because we're actually going to see temperatures reach their averages for this time of year, which we have not seen in about 2 weeks. So from one thing to another, always active here in North Mississippi. Let's take a look outside right now. This will look in the Greenville area. This was looking southeast into a few of those storms that were still, we're talking way far away of Greenwood by now, about 50 to 60 miles away. So I was hoping that we get a few of these strikes. I don't think we're going to be able to pick those up as those have transitioned a bit further away, but 75 degrees shows those mild conditions as a result of some of that moisture that moved in earlier today. Winona 72 degrees. This looking on the southern end of town as well. A big thank you to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for providing these views because they've been essential this afternoon to track a few of those showers and storms. So if you were in the areas that had them, well, we were keeping our eyes on them. Big thank you to those cameras. Smithville 72 degrees, so even further north and east, so we didn't get as much rainfall. Pretty mild conditions once again. It feels like that 72 degree value. Humidity still in the air, so it could be producing some of that patchy fog, and that's what we're watching for our hazard, if you can call it a hazard, into tomorrow morning because it's going to be so limited. Not anything like what we saw this morning. 73 degrees in Oxford, still that humidity pretty high, but luckily again for Oxford, didn't get as much moisture, and what that means is we're not going to get as much fog towards tomorrow morning. Oxford's not our area of focus. It's primarily going to be south and west assuredly. So 10:03, here's what we're watching. It's going to be these showers down there towards Chula, Yazoo City, and Hollandale. You might notice that we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect down around the Canton area. This one had actually a tornado possible tag to it. And what that means is that we did have some of that inflow that was starting to interact. Whenever we have that inflow with the outflow wrapping around, it made the winds just correspond as it needed to be, and that's where we had that TOR possible tag. But luckily, it seems like that threat has diminished greatly, and now we're going to be left with some small hail and maybe even some of those gusty winds. That in effect until 10:30 this evening for Madison County. Elsewhere, just going to be a few rumbles of thunder, but as I expand this out, you can really get an idea on where that cluster sits, and it's going to be south of Greenwood. Like I said, trying to get a few of those strikes on the camera, but the closest Greenwood is to that closest strike, we're talking down there towards Yazoo City, we're talking 30, 40 miles. So a bit of a ways away, hard to exactly get a pinpoint on those lightning strikes. So that's a good thing. That means that it's not going to be that electric atmosphere that took us off air for a brief moment at 6 o'clock, but also just knocked out a few power caused a few power outages as well. Whenever we look at those primary storm threats, again, none in North Mississippi except for this around the southwest portion of our viewing area. Holmes County had that severe thunderstorm warning earlier. What we're watching, and we can see this with our threat tracker especially, is some of that hail development. We're talking 1-inch hail in multiple spots. Now, what's actually reaching the surface? More than likely going to be pea-sized hail or less, just because all of that melts on its way to the surface. We did get a few reports from Thaxton that will show off here in a second, but that was giving us a good idea on what these storms were capable of, and that had a decent hail core as well. No severe tag to it, as it was well below severe limits with those hailstones, but the fact it was producing hail means that those storm tops were getting way up, and that means that those hailstones were getting increasingly larger if they were to continue to build in those storms. But luckily, in the far north area of Mississippi, did not continue to build. Down here, though, whole different story, as it did catch that inflow just right, so some larger hail being produced as a result of that. Now, what we're paying attention to into our overnight forecast and the start of our Thursday is going to be this frontal boundary extending across Wichita, St. Louis, and all the way up there towards Toledo, Ohio. That is making its way closer to North Mississippi, bringing some decent rain chances with it as well, and some inclement weather. Now, that's not what we're expecting here in North Mississippi, as that severe weather threat has been primarily pushed off there towards the east, but still the fact that that front is inching closer means that we do have the potential at a few isolated showers and thunderstorms for our Thursday afternoon. So thankfully, not severe, and thankfully it's much needed rainfall. So we'll take that for sure in that extended forecast. The only negative thing with this front is it's almost like a false front. It's a dry front where it's not really changing the air. It's not bringing in cooler air. It's almost like a pump fake before the real deal that happens later on this weekend. So we'll see that right here. Overnight, you do see those showers and thunderstorms right along that frontal boundary, pushing more into Arkansas and Tennessee. This is 6 a.m. on your Thursday. Moving more into that mid-morning forecast, that's where we start to see some of that moisture moving into our far northwest counties. Light showers at first and very isolated in nature as well. That's going to last until that noon hour before those chances really kick in by mid to late afternoon. So the next 24 here at the Room to Room Weather Center will be those isolated chances by 3 o'clock, those continuing in the forecast around 6. So we will be walking through that in more detail for your Thursday forecast. So fortunately, at least we're getting some of those drier conditions. At least we're getting a beautiful start to our Thursday. But again, it's Mississippi and it's summer, so that means there is going to be some activity by the afternoon. It's just typical time of year, typical this time of year, so don't be surprised by that at all. But temperature-wise, we are hot, looking like 90 degrees around 3 p.m. And actually, that temperature is not even going to be the hottest for this week. We continue to climb heading into that Friday forecast. That's one of the things we'll be walking through in more detail is that temperature forecast. And we know that it's the latter part of our work week, which means that the Friday night football forecast, our game of the week forecast here at Mississippi Live Weather, we'll be going through what to expect with those forecasts, as well as your SEC game day forecast, all of the things you need to know heading into the end of our work week. We'll have that in full detail here on Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Up here's where your biggest risks hide: leaks, mold, and expensive damage. Most commercial roofs fail slowly until they fail big. Why rip it off when you can restore it? Our silicone coatings stop leaks, prevent mold, and extend your roof life without the high replacement cost. It's a 30-year watertight roof, energy efficient, leak-free, and half the cost of replacement. And it's backed by GE's manufacturer warranties. Facility managers love this. No disruption, no tear-off, and long-term protection for your property. Trust Absolute Restoration for your commercial roof.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Welcome back into Mississippi Live Weather at 10. I hope you guys stayed dry, but I also hope you guys got some of that rainfall, because I know that we are still in desperate need of it. Coming up in the next 12 hours or so, we will have that latest drought monitor released. Meteorologist Maggie McCauley walking through that forecast, and of course, we will be here to provide you updates at 5, 6, and 10 on your Thursday evening. But before we get into the extended forecast, let's focus on what we had here today in North Mississippi. This, a look out of Thaxton. As you can see, this dime right here, some of that hail hail falling in Thaxton, smaller than dime size. This is what we would classify as pea-sized hail because of how small it was, but this was a result of a non-severe thunderstorm, and you see exactly why. That hailstone not up to those standards for severe thunderstorms to be issued, but this was a great report submitted by Patsy there in Thaxton because it provided us an estimate of that size using coins, using things that are common knowledge that people know the size of, and it's not like a marble where marbles can vary in size. Having a coin is a great way to do that. So if you got hail, and we're talking even down there towards Holmes County that had a severe thunderstorm warning earlier tonight, go ahead and submit those pictures, compare it to a coin to kind of let us know the size of that, and we will forward all of that information over to the National Weather Service so that way they can appropriately issue those warnings going forward, and they know exactly what these thunderstorms are capable of producing. So Patsy, a big thank you to you. We also had a great submission there from Zach in Thaxton. I mean, this was, of course, not comparable, but you can use your hand for reference, and I know that if that only covered a small part of my hand, well, that's about pea size. So pea size, kind of a general idea on the size of the hail we had in Thaxton, but those were the only reports that we have so far. I'm curious what happened down in Holmes County because that thunderstorm looked pretty intense and definitely had a solid hail core within that inside of the structure. Jeannie in Louisville also captured a great shot in Louisville. We're talking about some possible hail in that area. And whenever you see this almost like a barrier, almost a split between the shelf and the top of the cloud base, that's where you'd see a hail core develop, especially whenever it has a discoloration like we see right there. So would not be surprised to see some small hail over there in the Louisville area. This from earlier this evening. We have not gotten any reports here, and we've not heard of any reports from the area. So fingers crossed it never reached the surface, but definitely looked like it had a little bit of a hail core as it continued to progress through Winston County. So all of our weather watchers, thank you for your submissions, and a big thank you for staying safe in the process. As we know, going out in some falling hail, it's a bit intense and something that I wouldn't want to be a part of. So yeah, just be safe in the process. Wear a helmet if you're going to go out in that hail, right? Well, let's take a look outside right now where things have changed. Honestly, for a lot of us, big time. 70 degrees there in Kosciuszko. No chance of rainfall right now in Atala County as a lot of that has cleared out. But this facing south, you can see in the distance there, you just saw it a moment ago, some of that lightning moving through southern parts near Leake County and on downward towards Jackson. I mean, that's an energetic storm still right now. That's a part of that severe thunderstorm warning that's still in effect, wrapping up at the half hour. So keeping eyes on that, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. But luckily for folks down south, that is continuing to diminish in strength. But a great shot there, just kind of showcasing what's happening down along the southern end of Atala County. Greenwood showcasing some of those, not shelf clouds, but these are the back end of those lower clouds. That is going to continue to progress south out of the area, taking I-55 south to Jackson, basically on that path. 75 degrees, so still a mild forecast overnight, but not too bad for this time of year. We're still enjoying those below average temperatures, but all of that does change in the extended forecast. A little sneak peek of what to expect. We'll have that here in just a moment. Mississippi Live Weather Radar, as I mentioned, we are staying on the drier side down around Atala County. Holmes County still getting a few of those thunderstorms in effect. And as we mentioned, Canton having that severe thunderstorm warning down just north of Jackson. As I move it towards the Jackson radar, we can see right here that we are still seeing a decent thunderstorm right there. As I click this, we're seeing until 10:30 that severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect for Madison County. So that's where you're getting a lot of that lightning is towards Cobbville, Scotland, Bentonia. But that's really where we're getting the most activity. Some lightning strikes out here towards the Yazoo City area, Eden, Anchorage. So that's, the other part of the thunderstorm, that is sub-severe. But looking at those threats, even from what we saw a brief moment ago as I populated in a few of those threats, we're talking about 1-inch hail possible. And that's why we have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect, was because of that decent hail core as it moved out of Holmes County and down there towards the Madison County area. So still possible in a few areas, but as I cycle this through the last 15 minutes or so, you can definitely see that this has trended down, especially for that hail core right there in the Scotland area. What was once showing about 1.5-inch hail, those dark blues really starting to diminish. So this is on the back end, and a lot of that just starting to fall apart in that extended forecast. So fortunately, going to see better conditions, but let's do a track on here real quick, because I know we do have some folks down around the Jackson area. I'm just going to put on the latest scan right here, clear out some of these populated totals, and then let me track this out. So we're talking not a fast moving storm. If anything, these are about 10 to 15 miles an hour. I'm going to go ahead and take it 15 towards Ridgeland, and there you get a few of those times. Moving this to the left side of your screen, you're seeing the Richton area 1016, Livingston by 1027, Meltonville 1037, Madisonville 1042, and then on there towards the Sand Hill community by around 1047. So this is going to be the last of our worries whenever it comes to these thunderstorms progressing through the area, and not expecting any more severe weather, not even expecting any rumbles of thunder overnight here in North Mississippi, just a result of a diminishing factor with these storms. It's not exactly the environment that's favorable for it. So there's your view on those thunderstorms, just the giant cluster that's moving through the Jackson area, Canton, Yazoo City, watching that continue to progress south. But again, we are on the lower end of those threats as those continue to diminish into those overnight hours. So fortunate for us and unfortunate for folks down south. 65 degrees at pickup for your students as we head out the door for our Thursday. Almost to the end of the work week, ladies and gentlemen. We have almost made it. 2 more days. Let's power through. 90 degrees around drop off. The one saving grace of not reaching those seasonable averages is that 20% rain chance there towards the afternoon. That going to be maybe cooling some folks off, but we're not overly high on those coverage totals, and so a lot of folks still in those hot conditions. Let's get into that futurecast here real quick. As you can see, overnight, trying to populate a few of these showers up there on the northern side of the state. Not really seeing that as we did not have that boundary develop like what models were originally expecting, but moving down south, we still have a few of those showers that are trying to remain there towards Attala and Holmes County. Those dissipate as well. So overnight, we're expecting much calmer conditions and a much more calm and comfortable forecast for the start of our Thursday. Thursday morning, as you can see, mostly clear as we get our Thursday started. A beautiful forecast across North Mississippi. Temperatures mid to upper 60s, so it is still going to be a mild start. And with all those clear skies, these temperatures just continue to climb. Take a look at this. Into our mid-morning, you can see that southwesterly wind bringing in some of that Gulf moisture. And with these really reaching those breezy conditions, it's going to bring in that hot, warm air that is associated with those Gulf conditions, and even down there towards Louisiana. As we can take this, south and west, we know what air is being brought in. So that's by 9 a.m. Still with those clear skies warming us up. And so by the time we get towards that afternoon time frame, we are definitely going to be seeing some hot temperatures. But by noontime, there's your 10 to 20% that starts to move into the area. Not overly high on those rain chances, but those do start to become a bit more impressive by that 3 o'clock hour, and those continuing to stick around overnight into the late afternoon and into that early evening threshold. And you see that front? Yeah, we were talking about that front at 6. And as you might have seen on that positioning, way more north than what models were originally projecting. That's what we're explaining. This front is not bringing in cooler air. It's just going to be a little bit of a tease from what's actually going to be taking place over the next 24 hours. So we need to be paying attention to the battle of the fronts, or the different stories with the fronts, because each one will have a different story over the next 48 hours or so. So high temperatures, since that cold front not exactly doing anything for us temperature-wise, low 90s across the region is expected for North Mississippi, and a few areas actually in the mid-90s. So a toasty forecast, and those feels like values, a little bit of that mugginess factor being added to the forecast as well. So about a 3-degree temperature change in the positive end. We're talking about 94 feeling like 97 down around the Greenwood area. So it's going to be that summer heat once again, but luckily it's not going to be sustained for too long. As we take a look Thursday overnight, those clearer conditions move back into the forecast as that front clears and moves out there towards the northeast. We'll be left with that directly southerly wind. That's bringing in as much Gulf moisture as you want it to. So we talk about it being hot. We also talk about it being muggy, that being amplified in our Friday afternoon forecast. Friday morning, once again, starting with those clear conditions, helping with the heating of the day. So unfortunately, those temperatures continue to climb. By 12 p.m., we're still seeing that southerly wind into our area, and very little coverage in regards to cloud cover, very little coverage in regards to rain chances. So that forecast looking toasty once again. But there is your saving grace, and I can assure you that this will be your saving grace, because this will be producing much cooler air in that extended forecast. As I expand things out, you can see this frontal boundary really push into the area by that 9 o'clock hour, and I really want you to pay attention to when and where this is moving into, because we are talking about we're going to put it right on Hernando here in the northwest part of the area. There's your forecast at 9 o'clock. You see that frontal boundary pushing into the Memphis area, and back behind it, you see lots and lots of rainfall there towards Cherry Valley and on there towards Hughes. That's going to be down around Arkansas. As I take it one more scan, I'm going to expand this out one more time, and you can see how that pushes more into the area. And as we enter into that 1 a.m. time frame, those showers and storms push into Lee County and Monroe County, that leading edge right there, with more on the back end trying to circulate in. So while our chances are not high on the 7-day, our chances are high of receiving rainfall. It's just the time frame of which these are taking place. We only have 20% coverage on Friday because it's the latter part of the day, and 30% coverage on Saturday as it's the start of the day. So if this were a different time frame, we'd be looking at increased percentages, but don't let that change the fact that we are getting some good outputs of rainfall and hopefully putting in some damage on that drought monitor as a result. The only unfortunate thing is it's coming right on that football forecast. So if your team is going way into overtime, 10th overtime or so, well, then these showers will probably impact your forecast over there towards Pontotoc and Lee County. But if you are wrapping up the games as you should be around 10 o'clock or so, a lot of us staying on being the beneficiaries in that forecast because we won't be getting that rainfall and we'll still be getting that rainfall overnight, just not really impacting our football games. This is what will be impacting our football games. I saw some folks saying that the tailgate starts at 5 there in Baldwin. Temperatures going to be low to mid 90s across the region there around the Baldwin area. 95 Tupelo around 3 o'clock. Same thing Oxford and Water Valley, 98 Greenwood, and 98 over and around Clarksdale. So it is going to be a hot forecast. Summer is surging once again. But those feels like values with some of that moisture pushing back into the forecast. We're talking about upper 90s, triple digits in a few isolated spots. Columbus, Greenwood, Clarksdale, Cleveland. So pay attention to that forecast. I'm going to re-emphasize our summer rules because it's been a while. Stay hydrated, stay cool, take frequent breaks from the outside just to be on the safe side with this heat returning. While it's not heat advisory threshold, it's still warmer than what we've been expecting over the past 2 or 3 weeks or so. Those temperatures, luckily, we're topping out around 95 degrees for Friday, dropping to 86 on Saturday. Praise God for cold fronts, right? Actually making it feel a little bit better and a little bit more bearable for our weekend forecast. Sunday and Monday, low 80s, and we're going to stay right around that same threshold in that extended forecast. So high school football, you do see rain chances in that forecast. I think pregame we say on the drier side, a lot of that remaining out there towards eastern Arkansas. But by halftime, if you're on the northwest side of Mississippi, well, those showers already starting to impact you guys. 78 by that final snap with that 20% coverage once again in that forecast. So make sure to have that rain gear ready just in case, but say a prayer and have your fingers crossed that we won't have to touch that until we're on our commute home and we'll have to flip the windshield wipers on. But come Saturday, there will be some leftover remnants of that front, and that's why we do have that 10% chance of rainfall there for the first play. Well, actually, this is up around Kentucky. I'm waiting on the Starkville forecast. So this is actually going to be in Lexington, seeing some results of those some showers as a result of that cold front as well. First play, 55 degrees, 56 by halftime, and 54 by the final snap. What a better time, or name a better time where you could have scheduled an away game to get temperatures like this and escape that Mississippi heat. Ole Miss, you guys knew what you were doing scheduling this game, so hopefully you guys beat the Wildcats and enjoy the temperatures in the process. Ole Miss not the only ones getting that forecast. As we take a look at Mississippi State's forecast, I know we're at home, I know we're in Starkville, but it's a good forecast because look at the time. 6:30 in the evening. Sun is setting. We're going to be enjoying some cooler conditions. 67 by the first play, 66 halftime, and 66 by that final snap. I mentioned rain chances isolated in coverage as we head through the entirety of the game. A result of that frontal boundary just lingering in the process, going to bring with it some of those isolated showers. Alabama down around Tuscaloosa. Hopefully those rain chances aren't the tears of Alabama fans still. Hopefully UL Monroe actually brings some good luck and makes that season back on track, right? Alabama fans. First play, 10%, 80 degrees, 74 by halftime and 72 by the final snap. Matt talked about the positioning of the front at 6. That makes all the difference in this forecast because you might notice basically the same kickoff time as Mississippi State, but about a 10-degree temperature swing in regards to how it'll feel outside. So it is going to be better in some spots than others. Tuscaloosa slightly warmer than Starkville. So all the more reason to support the Bulldogs. But who am I? An unbiased source, of course. Thursday and Friday, as I mentioned, those isolated chances that stick around in the forecast, Fridays are going to be primarily overnight. So I wish I could put a percentage right here because that's when the rain chances are really going to kick in, is overnight and into the start of our Saturday. Saturday morning, seeing some isolated showers. Sunday morning, seeing some isolated showers. And as that front fully clears on out, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll be honest, I looked at those long track model runs and next week looks very, very dry. So if you need to do anything outside, mow the lawn, if you missed your opportunity to this week, well, next week, that is going to be as ideal as you can get, especially with temperatures dropping into the low 80s by Sunday and Monday, and low temperatures, we haven't even talked about that trend, dropping from upper 60s Saturday, mid 60s Sunday, low or upper 50s come Monday. We are getting some cooler air. So summer, you can surge all you want, but those Mississippi prayers, they always prevail. We're always tracking this forecast using the Mississippi Live Weather app, and you guys, of course, can download that as well whenever we go on air, whenever we're talking about threats, or if there's a severe thunderstorm warning that's issued in your area. Well, that'll provide all the information you guys need before you head out and about. So this is a great tool to have for your forecast, and it's right on your mobile device, which I know everyone has all the time. So download it today, iOS and Android, at my left and right here. We appreciate all the support you guys have. And speaking of support, make sure to tune in for that morning broadcast with meteorologist Maggie McCauley, 6:37 and 7:30, tracking some patchy fog for your Thursday. But overall, a beautiful start to your Thursday as well. Isolated chances towards the afternoon. She'll have the latest details on that forecast coming up on Mississippi Live Weather at 6:30. You guys have a great night. We'll see you then.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Life doesn't